Hello. This is a review about the Sennheiser or Sennheiser HD800S. Um, there's been a lot of reviews on these. You guys, I'm sure, seen them. I'm sure if you're looking at headphones at all, you've seen these. Um, how do I start this? I was trying to think about how I start this. Um, these are interesting headphones, and reviewers that I've seen. I looked at other reviews, and I probably shouldn't have done that. Um, and I have my reasons why, but uh, I did look at some others, and the one thing that people always say about this is that it has massive stage and um, incredible detail, and the treble's too peaky and that kind of stuff. So I will say, excellent stage, probably the best of the headphones that I've listened to, stage wise for sure. Imaging on these, um, fantastic, really, really pinpoint fantastic. Certain songs I could hear that vocal right dead in the center in front of me, kind of where it should be. Um, Let me kind of go first though with build. Okay, so they're super comfortable. They're very very light. The ear cups are big. There's no clamp force. You forget they're on your head. They've got a very cool little adjustable headband thing here, and has a serial number and stainless steel on the band there. Um, Open back, and when I say open back, I mean these things generate noise like crazy. Um, and by that I mean I can listen to my focal clears, which you see over here. I can listen to those sitting in the living room with my family, and they'll hear a little sound coming out of that, but it's nothing bad. I put these on, and my wife's like, "Could you do that in the other room, please?" Because these things are so freaking loud. I mean, the same volume between these two, the same volume, and these things generate way more noise on the outside. So that's number one. The well, is that number one? I don't know. Um, that's not really build, I guess. That's sound, but it is part of the build because them being open back is what creates all of that externally generated noise. Um, so you can't really listen to this with other people around, and even in environments where it's noisy, it's going to be tough to listen to music with these because they let in all that ambient sound. Now, they feel a little plasticky. They definitely don't feel like it's some super high quality thing. They look super cool. I really enjoyed the so build wise, super comfortable, super light. I mean, I don't think they'll break easy, but I do feel like they're a little delicate. Like you have to be careful with them. Um, this right here, you can see, this is a mesh. It's like a very, very, very fine steel mesh, right? Because these are open back. You just can't really see through that, but if you get up close, let's see if I can bring this up in there. If you can see that very well, but it is a fine steel mesh, not like this one here that's pretty open, but like this here, right? So, um, this right here, you know how when you press on a water bottle, an empty water bottle, and it pops in and out? That's what this does. It pops in and out super easy. And in fact, I made a little dent on right over here just by putting them on. And I tried being careful, right? So this is how they go on your head, like this. And as I was putting it on, my finger touched right there. Pop, little dent. God dang it. And I was able to push it back out from the inside here, but I mean, it's so fragile, right? I mean, these are not mobile headphones. These are headphones keep on a stand next to wherever you're going to listen to them, and you don't let anybody touch them but you, especially not your kids. um, yeah, these things are, I think they're fragile. Now, they come with these two cables. They come with a standard, quarter inch, and with a 4.4, And I really like these cables. I heard a lot of people hammering on them in some reviews, you know, but I got to tell you, I really like these cables. They don't kink up easy. They're comfortable. They're fabric, which I like. They're long. I mean, these, like I said, these are not headphones you're walking around with. I'm sorry, they're just not. So these cables are excellent. I really like the cables, no problem. They give you one bag, which is a soft. I heard someone call it a cleaning cloth. I don't know what you're cleaning. Cleaning these, I don't. You're not going to do anything to get these dirty, I don't think. But these aren't going to be. You're not wearing these out in your backyard to do yard work. Okay, I'll tell you that right now. So I'm fine. I like the cables. I like this 1/4 inch. I'm sorry, this 4.4. Several of my DAPs have this 4.4, and so I was able to use it in that. I used the 1/4 inch on everything else. You see the focal clears here, because I did a lot of comparing back and forth. The focal clears right now with tax and all that stuff, right around $1,500. These came out, they were $1,800 brand new. Right now you can get them about $1,600, like $1,589 or something like that on Amazon. I actually got a really good price on these. I don't know why. Brand new, and for whatever reason, the seller had them marked down to, I didn't even want to tell you, okay, but the seller had them marked for less than $1,300. That's all I'll say. And I was like, wow, that's a good price. And I bought them. Went back the next day just to kind of look in, and the price had changed and increased $200. So I don't know if they made a mistake and realized it and went back and changed their price, but I got them for that price, and they got delivered a few days later. It was Amazon Prime. Yes, there's a little dent right there, because this piece here hit it. Yeah, they're fragile. These are fragile. Now, so these connectors are really good. I like these connectors. No problem at all with them. I heard one reviewer complaining they're too hard to get in and out. And yeah, they are a little tough, but I don't know. You have to notice, and you be careful when you're putting them in. If you get these, there's a little notch right here. I don't know if you can see that monitors, but it's a little notch on there, and that notch fits into a notch in here. So if you line it up, it just slips right in, no problem. Really simple, right? If you take it out, you hold the headphone. I would not hold the cable and pull. You need quite a bit of force. I would hold the actual metal piece, and boom, it comes out. It is snug, and you want it to be snug. You don't want it falling out when you're listening to it, but you just need to be a little bit gentle with that. Now, obviously, I dinged it right there. I don't know if you can see that little ding right there. It's kind of hard to tell, but there is a ding there. So I like the accessories. They come in a box, not a case. They come in a box, like several of the Sennheisers that I've purchased. They come in a box that is fairly cheap. It's got some nice fancy cloth in it, and that's about it. Other than that, it's cheap, okay? And in fact, the one mine came in wasn't fancy cloth like I've seen on some other reviews. It was just styrofoam inside of it. So I was not impressed with that. I mean, for the original price that these were at $1,800, I expect these to come in a carrying case, right? The focals were $14.99, $14.79. These came in a carrying case with 3 different cables: a balanced XLR, a 1/4 inch, and a 3.5 inch. And the case is nice that these come in, right? The carrying case. They're not very portable because they're huge, like these are. They don't fold up at all, but still, they come in a case, a protective case. These don't, so you got to keep them in that box, and that box is just cardboard. It's going to fall apart sooner or later if you're opening it up a lot. So those are the accessories. I didn't like the box that it came in. I felt like they could have done a lot better job in giving you accessories and things for it. Could have come in a nice carrying case, protective carrying case. Super comfortable. Super comfortable. Not much more comfortable than the focals. They're lighter than the focals. Not by a lot, but they are lighter than the focals. So they feel lighter on my head, but I wore these for quite a bit of time, and I've worn these a bunch. I've used these a lot. and I can tell you, I didn't notice any difference as far as like being fatigued wearing focals or focals, whatever you want to call them, the focal clears, or these 800Ss. I don't, there was nothing fatiguing about wearing either one of these. So right away, that's a comparison. Um, Onto sound, because that's really what we care about, right? I mean, you can have a poorly built headphone that fits okay, but is a little tough to deal with. But if it sounds fantastic, you don't really care. All that stuff kind of goes away and doesn't matter anymore. So we'll get on to talking about how they sound. And I'm going to directly compare them to the focals, the clears, because they are kind of both in that range of price, and they're both kind of flagship. I know the focal, there's like two levels above this. There's the Utopia. These are in the same kind of price range, same kind of elite headphone range, if you want to call it that, I guess. So as far as sound goes, like I've said earlier, these have incredible stage. They do. Everyone's said that. It's a fact. I'm not telling you anything new. They have incredible stage. But I'll tell you, the stage was just a little better than the focals. Just a little better. Not a lot better. The stage is fairly similar. It's not like I put them on, because so here's what I did. I had them here, just like you're seeing them now, and I had the cables plugged in, and I had them plugged into the drop, the THX 789. And so my ADI 2 connected to that through XLR cables, and that's how I was playing it. I also have a dark voice over here, a tube amp that I was testing them with as well, that's also connected to the ADI 2. So these things are super amp specific, and that is one of the reasons I don't want to keep them, and I'm going to get into that. So plugging these back and forth. So I would listen to a song like I've done before in some of my other videos. I'd listen to a song, maybe the first 20 seconds or 10 seconds, whatever, songs that I know have certain things going on in them, in certain parts of the song that I know really well, and I hear it and I know how I think it should sound, and how I like it to sound. And then I go plug in these and listen to that, and then I plugged in the focals and listened to it, and I kept going back and forth, just trying to find those differences that were in there. The HD 800S has incredible detail and is very, very revealing as far as sound goes. The focals are as well, but not as much as the 800S. The 800S does not have the same mid and bass quality that the focal has. The 800S's mids, although good, they are good. They're just a little thinner. The bass does not have the same impact and also feels a little thinner. But in many songs, the bass felt really good, and it also changed drastically depending on the amp I had it paired to. So let's talk about amp pairings first, and then I'll go into details between songs. So this did not sound that great plugged directly into the ADI 2. It sounded okay. I mean, it sounded okay. When I first plugged in, I was like, oh, these are pretty cool, but they're nothing really special, not like I've heard. Then I plugged them into the THX, the 789, and I was like, wow, that's how I expect them to sound. I mean, they sounded really good. The bass became more impactful, mid sounded better, clarity and layering in the song got better. I mean, these are 300 ohm headphones, 300 ohm impedance, so they're going to need some power to drive them. That's for sure. Now, the 789, they sounded great. Plugged them into the dark voice. That's also putting out almost a full watt. The dark voice, they sounded good. In some songs, they sounded fantastic. Like bass was greatly improved, mids were greatly improved, like vocals and things were much better. And in other songs, there wasn't that much of an improvement. In fact, they seemed a little muddy. So the dark voice was kind of up and down on mostly on the type of song and how good the recording was and that kind of thing. I tried them on the Monoprice, the Monolith, the THX portable amp. It sounded okay. There was some songs that sounded really good, and others that sounded not so great. It was okay, and it wasn't a power issue. It could drive them really loud, like way louder than I could listen to them. But there was something about the way it was delivering the frequencies to it that it sounded okay. That's all I can say. I plugged in. I don't have it sitting here in front of me, but I plugged in the Sony, the WM1A, and that sounded terrible. It was right away. I was like, something's wrong. I started looking at the cables and the connections, but no, it's just that Sony does not put out enough power to drive these. That's just all there is to it. So, and you could really feel that in these, in the way they sounded, depending on how powerful the amp is you plugged them into. Except for this, the FiO M11 Pro, which has been my go-to for a long time now, and I've been using the WMA because I like it better with IEMs. It just I really enjoy the sound of that thing, and I tell you what, the vocals sound really good on the M1A as well, the Sony. But for some reason, this 800S using the 4.4 cable plugged into this FiO was unbelievable. I want to say it sounded almost as good as the drop, and in some cases better than the drop. That drop, I mean the 789, the THX amp. I was stunned at how good it sounded with this FiO. I mean, I didn't think the FiO was going to be able to power it after hearing it on the drop and hearing it on the ADI and hearing it on the WM. Because I had this in my drawer. It was just, I haven't been using it lately. But I pulled it out. I thought, well, it's probably not even going to work, but let me just try it. And I was like, right away, I almost would say it's worth keeping just to hear how it sounds on this for me, because it sounded so good, and that was very surprising to me. So back to comparing it in songs with both the vocal and I'm gonna spoiler alert, there's an IEM that sounds better than these, so we're going to cover that too. So one of the first songs I listened to was from Beyonce's album Lemonade. Hold Up was one of them, and also Daddy Lessons. And I like those two songs for various reasons. Hold Up because there's a good bass line in it, and there's some other details. There's a lot of echo and reverb going on, voices. And in certain parts of Hold Up, you can, if you have good resolving equipment and good resolving transducers like these headphones, then you can hear this layering of vocals in the back from the background singers. And some things you can't hear that. I could hear that clearly with this, and the reverb and echo sounded really good on that song with these. Voices were like right on target. Like I could picture them being right in front of me, and right where they should be. At least how it feels they should be. I don't know. I wasn't there when they were recording it, and I don't know how it looked, but it just felt right. It felt good listening to one of these. The separation was excellent, like I said, in both the instruments and the vocals. There's another song on there called Daddy Lessons, and there's a ton of male vocals going on in the background of that song and hand clapping, and it's a great song, but it's also got a lot of great layers to it if you've got the right equipment, right? And these really expose those layers well. I really liked how it sounded in there. Now, going against the vocal, the vocal clears, it was more pleasant to listen to on the vocal clears. I'm going to say that it felt a little analytical on the H100S, the 800S. It had that kind of clinical feel to it when I was listening to it. Sounded good, but the vocals have a smoothness to them in the mids that make you feel a little more relaxed and a more pleasant listening experience. That's kind of how I would say it. Clarity was very similar between these two in the way that it revealed the music, and there's like an airiness, Blade Runner, the movie Blade Runner, I've got the soundtrack to that, the Blade Runner 2049, the most recent one, and it's got a great soundtrack because it's all orchestral music, but the way it's recorded, there's a lot of depth to it and a lot of way in the back sounds. So on the very first song of the album 2049, there's all these distant sounds going on, like It's what it is those big drums they have. You'll see them in orchestras. I don't even know what they're called, where the guy stands behind it and hits them. So those are going off in the background. There's some other sounds as well. The stage gets very wide, and you can really hear all those sounds. And I can kind of picture that scene in the movie where his car's kind of coming in over the city, and how it looks, and these distant sounds going on. The Focals had a similar stage and whatnot, but that particular soundtrack, these were the winners for on it, just slightly, but they were the winners for sure. The song Boston, More Than a Feeling, from the Boston album, I have a Japanese remastered version of that, and that the beginning, great guitar work, comes in very slowly, builds up. There's some cymbals going on. The cymbal decay was better on the Focal. So the cymbals, so these things, is one thing I could say, is they're what you would call fast. And you're going to hear some people that talk about this kind of stuff saying, oh, they're really fast. And really what I think they're talking about, and I don't know, there's no like audiophile go-to handbook for this stuff, but by fast means the roll off is kind of sharp and the decay is kind of quick, so that it can move on to the next sound or frequency or note or whatever, right? So when a cymbal was struck in that song, it kind of went off a little bit further, but felt a little more realistic on the Focal. On these, it felt kind of clean and tight. It still sounded good. But I just like the way it sounded better on the Focal. The song More Than a Feeling. It's got kind of a slow, quiet beginning, and it builds up into a kind of a big hit where they take off, and where the whole band's playing. And at that point, the Focal delivered better because it has a better bass reproduction. So I did like the Focal better on that song. Hitch a Ride, which is another song on that album, which I like because it has a great guitar section in the beginning. Again, on those, the vocals and the cymbals sounded better on the Focal. The guitar, though, sounded better on the H800S. The 800S does really well reproducing guitar. There's another song. Let me scroll down here. I took a bunch of notes. Chris Cornell, Nothing Compares to You, recorded live at Sirius XM Studios. I mean, that song is widely used on YouTube. There's a whole bunch of what they call reaction videos to that song because it's such an emotional song. And listening to it on the right equipment, you can hear the emotion in Chris Cornell's voice. I mean, you can really hear that he's like, almost like he's talking about his life in that song, right? Even though it's a remake. So the 800s, I didn't get the emotion. I kept waiting for it, and I didn't get it. They felt clinical, and it felt like the emotion that's portrayed in that song just wasn't there. And I liked it. It sounded good. It was, I liked it, but I didn't get the emotion from it that I get from some other stuff. The Focals, you really get the emotion from the singer. I really could feel what he was trying to portray in that song. And so these were definitely better for that song. Black Hole Sun, another Chris Cornell song, which I think everyone knows that one. I love that song. The bass and the cymbals on it were excellent in the 800S. I really liked them in the 800S, but when they were plugged into the Dark Voice, it just, something about it sounded great. The Focal was a little bit better on that combo with the Dark Voice, but in general, I did like the 800S. When that's another song that starts out and then dives into a hard hit, and the Focals delivered a little bit better in there. Diana Krall, another one you guys know, I love her voice, and I really like her stuff. And so for Live in Paris, that song Love Being Here With You, the 800S won for sure. There was something about the way it was delivering the cymbals and the piano and her voice and the detail and the layering. These definitely won on that, which I was surprised because her voice is, it's one of those things that her voice is special. She delivers a lot of emotion with her voice. And usually things that are clinical don't sound good with her music, but these sounded really good. Better, I like them better than the vocals. I did. Um, A Case of You, which is another song on that Live in Paris album. And that song, I mean, you can really hear the emotion in her voice. That is just, I don't know how to explain it. When I'm listening to the right audio equipment on listening to that song, I can feel my vocal cords tensing on certain parts of where she's singing because I can hear the emotional strain in her voice. It's not like she's straining her ability. It's like there's this emotions coming out while she's singing, and it's like tightening her throat a little bit. And it makes me want to do the same thing when I hear it. And it's kind of a stunning feeling when you get something that can deliver that to you. But these sort of did it. It sounded good. It did sound good. I got that emotion from her, and I did feel like my vocal cords were tightening up a little, like I wanted to do it. I would say the vocals do it better, but these did do it, which I was surprised. Uh, so what would I keep if I had the two of these? I would take the vocal, honestly. And honestly, I do like the sound of these, and I love the resolution of these. So what I mentioned layering. So sometimes when you're listening to a song, right, there's the singers, the guitarist, the drummers, or the drummer, pianist, all sorts of instruments and different artists playing in a song, right? And so all these recordings that are brought together, these are the layers of a song. And so some equipment can pull those layers out so you can hear all of it clearly. And sometimes it does it in a way that's clinical and you feel like things are different places and separated, but they don't feel together. It doesn't have a musical sound to it. And then sometimes you hear it all together and it does have a musical sound, but the clarity of the device that's delivering the sound to you allows you to see through the layers almost. It's almost as if they were clear pieces of glass with each portion or frequency on it, and you're looking through them, right? And they're all together. I kind of feel like that with these, like they give you this clarity into the music where you can look through it, and and I really enjoyed it. I really like that. Now, would I keep them though? My problem with them is that first off, they're very fragile, and I have a hard time taking care of things like this. I tend to be a little too rough. These are fragile. They don't come with a carrying case. And I know I could get something that might fit them or whatever, but it's just another thing to deal with. But the biggest problem with the biggest problem is how amp specific they are. I listened to them on 4 different amps because I also put them into my home stereo system, which they did not sound good on, by the way. My Marantz home stereo, these did not sound good on that. I could crank the volume. It had more than enough power. I could crank the volume up to where these would hurt. I could not listen to them at the volume that I was able to go to. I couldn't do it. So it definitely wasn't a power issue, I don't think, but they just didn't sound good. Um, and so, listening to these on 4 different amps and two different DAPs, and there was one amp pairing that was consistently good, and that was the 789, and one DAP pairing that was also consistently good, which was the Thieaudio, the M11 Pro. So I'm a little limited with these, right? I have to listen to 789. Now, I'm sure someone might chime in the comments and say, no, but did you try this amp pairing, or could you try this amp pairing? Get this amp because it'll sound good with that. And I know there's a lot of people, I've looked in some of the forums, and they talk about all the different amps that these are good with. I just am not going to go out and buy 25 different amps and try to figure out which one I like best with these. It's not worth it to me. The vocals sound good with just about everything. They sound good on the File. They sound good on the WMA1. They sound good on the ADI DAC2. They sound good on the 789. They sound good on my home stereo system. They sound good on everything. And these are high end and just as resolving as these. They're clear. I can't get that same, the completely same sense. And I mean, I want to say this right, because this is a lot of money, and maybe you're thinking about buying these. So when I say that there's certain things like the clarity that's better on these and the stage is better on these, it's slightly better. Slightly better. I don't know that slightly better is worth the $300+ more that these are, or whatever price you find them at. Maybe it's $100 more. I've seen the focals down as low as $1,200 on Amazon. It's like it goes up and down. So I don't. For me, the focal is a much better package. It has a case, three different cables, and honestly, I don't like the cables on the focal. I like the cables on the Sennheiser much better. I wish they were interchangeable. I'd keep the freaking Sennheiser cables and use them on the focal because I don't like the focal cables. They're too stiff and weird, and they're hard to like wrangle when you're using it. Um, in fact, I even bought a separate cable to use with these that's very thin and pliable, so I can, I don't have that same hassle. Um, but these are just too specific for the amp pairing and too specific of a use case. I enjoy this big soundstage, and the imaging was awesome on these. So here's the thing I mentioned earlier about an IEM pairing or comparison. I'm gonna piss off people that have listened to these and own these, and I'm sorry, but the Thieaudio Monarch, which I did a video on, they blew me away more than any other IEM I've ever heard. So there's a song that I haven't talked about yet because I wanted to save it for this portion when I'm talking about the IEM, the Monarchs. So there's a song by Rodrigo and Gabriela called Echoes. And I don't even know what album it's on. I'll try to look it up. Maybe I'll put a link or something, or just put it in the comments. But that song Echoes has a ton of imaging going on in it. All sorts of crazy sounds. They're dragging their pick up and down the string of the guitar. There's just sounds you have to hear in that song in order to understand. But for imaging and layering, I mean, that it blew me away when I heard it. And I heard it on this, and I was like, wow, it sounded so good, and the imaging was so spot on, as these are notorious for. And then I put on the Monarch. I just wanted to see, and the Monarch imaging is better than these, and the stage is better than these. There are sounds in that song. Let's just say, and I know this is like totally unscientific, but let's just say right here is the stage, for some of the sounds in that song. On those Monarchs, it was like out here. I mean, no joke. There were sounds in that song that sounded like they were like a foot or two behind my head, off to the right in the back, and I could hear them on this. There were sounds in that song that were about off to the right and to the back of my head, and on these, I want to say it was like a foot away from me, a foot and a half away from me. On those Monarchs, it was like 3-4 feet behind me. It was the craziest experience, and so I started listening to the Monarchs alongside these for a lot of different songs. The Monarchs have better stage, and in many cases, better imaging, better clarity. There are differences because those are stuck in your ear, right? So they're definitely different. I'm not going to say they're better. I mean, for me, they were better. Okay, that's my personal opinion. But it is very subjective, and you might, think that's a crazy comparison, but I don't know. For me, the Monarchs were better than these. The Monarchs are 730. These are $1,600. So, and the Monarchs come with a case, and these don't. So I know maybe I'm being silly because these are big old Sennheiser flagship headphones, and a lot of people think these are the best thing in the world. But that Monarch was better than these, in my opinion. So that's how I'm going to end this review. Hope I didn't offend you with my opinions. I think the Focals are a better buy. I think the Monarchs are definitely a better buy. But we'll see. I may keep these. I may get rid of them. We'll see what happens. I like them. I do like them. I mean, these. If you bought these and you've got them, then just you did fine. These are nice headphones. Just be careful with them because they're a little bit fragile. But I mean, they sound great. They're definitely high end headphones. So that's it. You guys have a great day.